Hello everyone, my name is Abhilasha and I'm a VARC educator on Unacademy. I have been teaching for CAT and CLAT for the last 22 years and I have cracked CAT with a 99.99 percentile nearly 9 times. Today's session is the 99 percentile question series where I will cover one reading comprehension passage and we will do 3 questions that are associated with the passage. So let's not waste any more time. Let us begin very quickly. So if you haven't yet joined with me on Telegram, do connect with me on Telegram using my Telegram channel. That's AbhiCat. You can find me there. Here's our passage for the day. So we've got 3 questions and this is the passage. So let us read the passage first and then we will take a look at the question. So every civilized society lives and thrives on a silent but profound agreement as to what is to be accepted as the valid mold of experience. So what is considered to be valid platform or style or design of experience? Civilization is a complex system of dams, dikes and canals warding off, directing and articulating the influx of surrounding fluid in element. A fertile fenland elaborately drained and protected from the high tides of chaotic, unexercised and inarticulate experience. They're saying that civilization is very complicated. There are many types of things that are coming in, that are coming out, and that are kind of getting together and mixing to form a culture. In such a culture, stable and sure of itself within the frontiers of naturalized experience, the arts wield their creative power not so much in width as in depth. So, in a culture which is very stable and which has already done everything, then the arts become very important and they provide a depth of experience in such a civilization. They do not create new experience but deepen and purify the old. So art will not create something new but it will make the older culture, the markers of culture much more deep and will kind of bring it into a new light. Their works do not differ from one another like a new horizon from a new horizon, but like a Madonna from a Madonna. So he says the work of any artist will not be like, every day you have a new horizon, but the Madonna does not change. So there are different ways you can view the Madonna. Madonna means the mother of Jesus. So there are different ways you can view the Madonna, but the Madonna will not really change. So that is what he's saying, that artist or art in a stable culture does not really change. It can be viewed, the perspective can be different, but it's not really different. The periods of art which are most vigorous in creative passion seem to occur when the established pattern of experience loosens its rigidity without as yet losing its force. So the periods where you have the most creative passion, they occur when the established pattern of experience kind of becomes a little less rigid and is yet still having its force. Such a period was the Renaissance and Shakespeare its poetic consummation. So the Renaissance period was one such period and Shakespeare was the heights. Consummation means the best. Shakespeare was its best poet. Then it was as though the discipline of the old order gave depth to the excitement of the breaking away, the depth of job and tragedy, of incomparable conquest and irredeemable losses. So that was when the discipline gave away, it got out, and then there was this excitement of this newness, tragedy, new conquest, losses that Shakespeare brought in. Adventurers of experience set out as though in lifeboats to rescue and bring back to the shores treasures of knowing and feeling which the old order had left floating on the high seas. So now these were young people, artists, people who were trying to experience life, adventurers of experience, people who were trying to gain experience. They moved out as if they are in lifeboats to rescue. Lifeboats are boats that are used to rescue people from shipwrecks. So these are boats and they're traveling in those lifeboats and they're going to bring back these treasures of life and kind of put them all together. Those treasures that the old people have just forgotten. The works of the early Renaissance and the poetry of Shakespeare vibrate with the compassion for life experience in danger of dying from exposure and neglect. So early Renaissance period and the Shakespearean poetry, it's all very compassionate. There is life experience. They want to, experience life fully. in this compassion was the creative genius of the age. So the creative genius during that age, that was what was shown in this compassion, in this desire for life. Yet it was a genius of courage, not of desperate audacity. So he says, yes, there was creativity, but it was a brave creativity. It was not audacious. It was not desperate. They were not just out to do any random thing. There was courage, there was bravery, and there was good work. For however elusively, so however less we could catch it, it still knew of harbors and anchors, of home to which to return, and of barns in which to store the harvest. So these people in the first early Renaissance and Shakespearean period, they knew what was work, they knew what was creativity, they knew what was culture. So they were kind of ready to, take it in and understand and then bring back to original. The exploring spirit of art was in the depths of its consciousness, still aware of a scheme of things into which to fit its exploits and creations. So, art was very exploratory, and yet they had a consciousness, they had this spirit of I can fit everything into a certain model. Let's go to the next page. But the more this scheme of things loses its stability, the more boundless and uncharted appears the ocean of potential experience. So, the more things became unstable, the more exploration could happen. In the blank confusion of infinite potentialities, flotsam of significance gets attached to the jetsam of experience. For everything is sea, everything is at sea. So, when there is infinite potential, what happens is that floating things, flotsam means things that are being floating in the sea. So important things that are randomly here and there, they collect together with things that have been thrown out of experience, because everything is sea, everything is at sea, there's everything is free. You can pick up what, you can attach it to something, you can get your experience in whichever way. The sea is all about us. The sea is the land's edge also. The granite into which it reaches, the beaches where it tosses. It's hints of earlier and other creation. So he's saying that the sea is everything. Sea is at that edge of the land. It is that place where you get in with the beach, where you get ideas of what have happened earlier. So sea is very important. And Reich tells a story in which, as in T.S. Eliot's poem, it is again the sea and the distance of other creation that becomes the image of the poet's reality. So the sea and the other creation becomes what the poet really wants to tell you. A rowing boat sets out on a difficult passage. So there is a boat that goes out on a passage. The oarsmen labor in exact rhythm. So the people who are rowing the boat, they are very rhythmic. There is no sign yet of the destination, so they don't know where they're going. Suddenly, a man, seemingly idle, breaks out into song. So this man starts singing. And if the labor of the oarsman meaningly defeats the real resistance of the real waves, it is the idle single who magically conquers the despair of apparent aimlessness. So if the rowers, they are actually defeating the waves, the resistance of the real waves, it is this single person who's singing, who kind of defeats this sadness that is coming out of just rowing a boat without knowing where you are going, while the people next to him try to come to grips with the element that is next to them. So everybody around him is trying to understand what is happening. His voice seems to bind the boat to the farthest distance. So the boat is, it is as if his voice is taking the boat towards the destination, so that the farthest distance draws it towards itself, so that place is pulling this boat towards itself. I don't know why and how is Reike's conclusion, but suddenly I understood the situation of the poet, his place and function in this age. So he says, Reike says that he doesn't really know why or how, but he understood how important the poet was in this particular age. It does not matter if one denies him every place except this one. There one must tolerate him. So you can just deny that the poet serves any useful function, but there is this one function that the poet does serve, and that's where you have to bear him. This is such an interesting article, guys. I hope you read it and I hope you were able to understand whatever I was trying to explain. Let's take a look at our question. The first question says, in the passage, the expression like a Madonna, from a Madonna alludes to. So the first statement, the difference arising as a consequence of artistic license, the difference between two artistic interpretations, the difference between life and interpretation of life, the difference between width and depth of creative power, and the difference between the legendary character and the modern day singer. Well, when we were discussing this, you remember I told you it is as if there are two different interpretations of the same person. The same Madonna is interpreted by two different people in two different ways, and that is why we say like a Madonna, from a Madonna, not like two different horizons but two Madonnas. So that was where we said the difference between two artistic interpretations, and therefore correct answer should be B, guys. Let's check it out. Yes, it is absolutely. Okay, let's go to the next one. The sea and other creation leads Raike to define the place of the poet in his culture, to reflect on the role of the oarsman and the singer, to muse on artistic labor and its aimlessness, understand the elements that one has to deal with, or delve into natural experience and real waves. Let's quickly take a look at the passage once and then see what is this sea and other creation leading to. So take a look. It is again the sea and the distance of the other creation that becomes the image of the poet's reality. So it is telling you what the reality of the poet is, or what it is that the poet is doing. So yes, so to define the place of the poet in his culture, absolutely perfectly right. We are not talking of reflecting on the role of the oarsman and the singer. We are not talking of the muse on artistic labor and its aimlessness. We are not talking of the elements. The writer very clearly says that this is that place. If you go back to the passage, this is, it does not matter if one denies him every place except this one. There one must tolerate him. So what is the place of the poet? That is what we get to know through the sea and other creations. Alright, let's take a look at the last question. According to the passage, the term adventurers of experience refers to poets and artists who are driven by courage, poets and artists who create their own genre, poets and artists of the Renaissance, poets and artists who revitalize and enrich the past for us, or poets and artists who delve in flotsam and jetsam in the sea. Well, it is not literally delving in the flotsam and jetsam in the sea, so therefore we can definitely eliminate option E. Poets and artists who revitalize and enrich the past. Well, were they really revitalizing and enriching the past, or were they actually going out into the sea and doing their own thing? So it should probably not be D also. It could be poets and artists of the Renaissance. It could be poets and artists who create their own genre, and poets and artists who are driven by courage. We can quickly take a look at the passage and check. So here we are, the adventurers of courage. We are here. So adventurers of experience set out as though in lifeboats to rescue and bring back to the shores treasures of knowing and feeling which the old order had left floating on the high seas. The work of the early Renaissance and the poetry of Shakespeare vibrate with the compassion. So this is where we get to know that it is the Renaissance poets who are actually doing this, right? So correct answer will be adventurers of experience, referring to poets and artists of the Renaissance. Okay, very clearly mentioned in the passage. Yes, here it is, poets and artists of the Renaissance. Okay guys, I hope this question was clear to you. Remember, every day at 10:15 p.m. I do have my special class, Practice Rush Hour, which is a section test for CAT 2022. You can join me. This is a free session that you can join. Thank you so much for joining in. Remember to hit like, share, subscribe and the bell icon. And also remember to use AbhiCat Live to get your 10% off. Thank you so much.